Hey guys, and good afternoon. Today I wanted to do something a little bit different for the YouTube video. Today we're going to be talking about a true crime case that's already been solved. This is the case called The Girl Under the Bed. Now, this case does talk a little bit about sexual assault, and it's a violent crime with very young children. So if you don't wish to watch this, you can go ahead and click off. I completely understand. This is just something that I chose to do today. I don't do this kind of stuff all of the time. I hope to see you again in a different video, but you're welcome to not watch this one at all. Leave me a comment of something else you'd rather watch, or what kind of things interest you. I do like conspiracy theories as well, and you know, just doing my research on certain things, especially plants, you know. So go ahead and leave a comment, but without further ado, however you say that, let's go ahead and get into the video. Now, before we get into the video, I did want to go ahead and start by saying that I tried to do as much research as I could on the subject, okay? But it was kind of hard because what you can find on the internet and public records from Jacksonville, Florida contradict what I'm seeing on like YouTube and everything. And then a lot of even the public records contradict themselves as to what the story is, because some of the story is going based off of the culprit's point of view, what he says happened, and then there's autopsy reports that show that something else happened. So I'm not really going to get too much into what exactly happened, but I will go ahead and add in what the culprit says happened, and what happened to this little girl. And then I'll go ahead and you know, just try to go through this with as much of the details that connected, like from YouTube, the public records, everything that was like still the same. Everything that was kind of like hearsay didn't really match up. I'm kind of left it out. That way you guys can go ahead and do your research if you'd like to do so. If not, I'm sure there's other videos that can go ahead and give you a little bit more details, but I go ahead and left that out because it was just confusing me. So let's go ahead and jump into the story. Like I said in the beginning of the video, the story is called The Girl Under the Bed. Her name was Maddie Clifton. She went missing in Jacksonville, Florida in the year of 1998. This is one of the largest and most populated cities in Florida. So, you know, when a little girl goes missing, so many people are going to join the search. However, if they don't find her within a reasonable amount of time, something might have happened to her. Maddie was the youngest child and second born to Mom Sheila and Dad Steve in Jacksonville, Florida. She was also younger sister to Miss Jessie, who was 11 years old at the time in 1998. Maddie was like any other kid. She liked playing out with her friends. She liked being outside. She was kind of a tomboy. She really liked music and dance. And on this particular day, November 3rd, 1998, she did was really normal for her. So she went out into the neighborhood, and she started knocking on doors to ask the kids if they wanted to play with her, which was very typical for her, or for them, you know, to go do. This particular day, however, most of the kids seemed to be very busy, whether it was homework, after school stuff that they needed to do. Maddie found herself playing out in the street by herself. After maybe like 30 minutes or so that she was playing out by herself, a couple of the kids ended up coming outside with her to play. They ended up playing golf. They played for about another 30 minutes or so, because she was only out of her house for about an hour and a half before she went missing. So they were playing about 30 minutes or so. I think they were playing golf because it mentions that they had run out of golf balls, and Maddie had some at her house. She knew she had some at her house. So she told everyone, don't worry, I'm going to go ahead and get the golf balls from my house, and I will be right back. And that was actually the last time those little girls saw Maddie. Now, like I just mentioned, Maddie was literally out of her house for maybe an hour and a half. It was around 6 p.m. at this point, at dinner time. Okay, so it was dinner time at her house, and her parents started getting very worried because Maddie's usually really good about coming back home. She's a good girl. She listens to what her parents say. She never really got into much trouble, even though being a tomboy. I mean, she would get her cuts and bruises, you know, because she liked playing sports a lot, but she was not a bad kid. So her parents got a little bit worried. They sent out Jessie, the older sister, to go find her. So Jessie gets on her bike and she goes out into the neighborhood to go find Maddie. Jessie looked for her sister for almost 30 minutes before realizing she's not out here, and there are no other kids playing out on the street. She got very concerned, as any older sister would get, you know, especially because she's 11 years old and your 8-year-old little sister is missing. She started kind of panicking. She drove straight home after like 20 plus minutes or so. By the time she got home, she was telling her parents, you know, very frantically, she couldn't find her anywhere. Wasting no time, as any parent should, they immediately called the police. By the time the cops even got to their house, the parents were already out searching, screaming Maddie's name into like the alleys, into, you know, in the neighborhood, whatever, making like a lot of noise, just trying to like make sure that wherever she was, she could hear them. Wherever she was, she could hear them screaming her name. Sorry, I got, you know, my brain just ADHD. Hearing all of this, you know, commotion and everything outside, hearing that little Maddie was missing, the neighbors who have, you know, seen this little girl grow up, they get concerned too. So the neighbors are now out looking for Maddie all over this, you know, neighborhood. You know, more neighbors here, more people start searching. The search goes on for hours. Hours. This was 6 p.m. when the parents started getting concerned that she was out and sent Jesse out to go find her. It was already the next day in the morning. By that time, they already had 1,000 volunteers looking for Maddie out on the streets of Jacksonville, Florida. Unfortunately, even after hours of searching for her, they still couldn't find Maddie anywhere. So police were doing their thing, you know, they're interviewing neighbors. They're getting to talk to people who may or may not have heard from Maddie. Since she had only gone missing for about an hour and a half, and she had already come home from school, there was no way anybody from school may have heard from her, right? So they're just making sure that they're talking to neighbors, they're talking to the neighborhood kids. They're coming up with like no leads. It's like she just walked out of her house and disappeared out of thin air. She's 8 years old. Like, where could she have gone? You know what I mean? They start concluding that maybe it was someone that she knew. Maybe it was someone that was like familiarized with the neighborhood and the neighborhood was familiarized with them. You know, if you see someone, a stranger in your neighborhood, you're going to be like, yeah, no, I saw some sus guy, you know, walking in the neighborhood with like this top hat or whatever. You're going to remember certain things about them. But if it's someone that you already know, you're not going to give it a second thought. You're not going to keep that in the vault or whatever. At least I personally wouldn't. You know, I'm pretty careless whenever it comes to like walking around. If I see someone, I'm like, oh, I've already seen them before. I don't panic and I don't save it, you know, for later. So they're concluding that it may be someone that she already knew. Again, no leads. Police come back and they start doing background, what is it called? Background searches? Background checks. My brain doesn't work today. They start doing background checks on a lot of the locals that are helping look for her. Of course, the neighbors are all getting looked into. They find, again, no leads except for one person. And that person is 45-year-old Larry Grissom. Larry Grissom. He lived 3 doors down from her. 3 doors down. So that's pretty freaking close, you know. He lived 3 doors down to her and had a previous conviction. Well, I should say, not conviction. Conviction means he went to jail for it. He had a previous accusation of sexual assault about 15 or 20 years prior. I say accusation because the charges were actually dropped and he was never convicted of this crime. But still, he had a record of sexual assault. That's kind of sus, right? 3 doors down from this little girl that's just gone missing. Hello? I don't understand why that didn't like click for Steven. They were just, you know, trying to find leads somewhere else. I don't know why they didn't do background checks like from the get-go, but you know, that's why I'm not a cop. I don't know what the logistics of that was. As it turns out, the last one to actually see Maddie alive was Larry. Are you kidding me? So Larry was the last one to see her alive. So they take him into the station. They start questioning him, and he denies knowing anything about her disappearance. I mean, he knew that she had gone missing because of the neighbors. He joined the search and everything, but he denies knowing where she is, right? I'm like, okay, sure, Larry, whatever. But then they do like a lie detector test on him. That checks out. His alibi checks out for where he was that day, and like he's in the clear. He's good. They sent him back home. He's fine. He's still joining the search for Maddie. He's still helping out. And it's just getting so frustrating because, again, the one person that they had that could have, you know, had either something to do with it or had known something to do with Maddie's disappearance, he's clean. Again, zero leads. And Maddie's still missing. So it wasn't until November 10th of 1998 that the police finally made a discovery. A big break in the case as to the disappearance of Maddie Clifton. So the Cliftons had neighbors right in front of them, as most of us do. They were the Phillips family. Now, this family consisted of Dad Steve. They had the same name as the dad, from the Cliftons. Mom Melissa, and their 14-year-old son, Josh. All three family members were very active in the search from the get-go. As soon as, they found out that Maddie was missing, they were some of the first people that helped in the search. So as it turns out, Mom Melissa was the one who ended up finding Maddie Clifton on November 10th of 1998. And the way she found her, chills down my spine. Let me just go ahead and get into the details because I need a sec. 1 sec. I can't do this over. 1 sec. This poor little girl. Oh my God. On the morning of November 10th, 1998, Melissa Phillips was cleaning her house when she noticed a horrifying, she quoted, horrifying smell coming from her son's bedroom. 14-year-old Joshua Phillips owned 3 birds or something like that. He had several birds in his room. So Mom, thinking that his pets' cages just haven't been cleaned, she was like, you know what? I've had it. I'm going to go in there and clean while he's out at school. It was like 8 in the morning at this time on November 10th, 1998. I know I keep saying it, but I just, I've been saying it so much in my head. I'm just trying to remember the details, and like that way it's important to know the length of time, okay? So I'm just going to keep repeating it. She goes into his bedroom and she realizes that his carpet is soaked. It's wet. All around his bed it's just so wet, and she goes, "Oh no. The birds' cages are clean. It's mildew in this carpet. There's a freaking leak from his bed." Because, of course, a 14-year-old in Jacksonville, Florida in 1998 would have a waterbed. So, of course, like any mom would do, she starts searching for the source of the leak. She's like, this boy's probably sleeping on this bed, just putting more pressure on the bed, making more water spill out. She starts taking the sheets off of the bed, and she finds a corner, like up against the headboard of the bed, that had already been taped up with Scotch tape, like the gift wrapping tape. And of course, water's kind of like peeping out of the tape because that's not gonna hold a waterbed together. It's gonna fall apart. And it just looked like he had been adding tape the entire time. Like as soon as tape would fall off, he would add more tape. So she tries to eventually like take the tape off to replace it, just to make sure that there's adequate tape on there, so that it stops leaking, or at least so she can make some damage control. Takes off the tape and realizes that the bottom piece of the tape is stuck underneath the bed. So like, let's say the bed is like this in that corner, right? So the tape was covering all of this top corner right here. And when she took it off down here, it was a sock stuck to the bottom patch of tape that he had created. So when she ripped off the tape, she tries to pull the sock out from underneath the bed, but it's stuck. No matter how much she tries to pull it, it's just stuck. It's like stuck on something, it's hooked on something. So Melissa Phillips lifted up that waterbed corner to release a sock, thinking it was her son's, and made a disturbing discovery. On November 10th of 1998, Melissa Phillips found the decaying corpse of Maddie Clifton underneath her 14-year-old son, Joshua Phillips' waterbed. She said, and I quote, "It is an image that will haunt her for the rest of her life." She panic called her husband, who was at work and was not able to answer the phone, left him several voicemails that he needed to come home and that it was an emergency. She sat there in shock for several minutes before getting up, walking out of her house across the street to the Clifton's house, where she knew that there was going to be cops posted, and immediately alerted the police that she believed that she had found the dead body of Maddie Clifton. The cops went over and immediately identified the body as 8-year-old Maddie Clifton, who at this time had been missing for 1 week and had been decomposing underneath that waterbed for all this time. Upon further investigation of Joshua Phillips's room, the police also found a bloody baseball bat, an X-Acto knife, and a missing persons poster of Maddie Clifton taped to his dresser. Maddie's corpse was found to have been missing her shorts, her underwear, and her shirt had been pulled up over her chest. Her shoes and her socks were still on her feet, except for one foot that was missing a shoe, which was the foot that Melissa Phillips was yanking the sock off of. Backup was immediately called over to proceed with a crime scene and full investigation of the room. Joshua Phillips was then arrested at 8 in the morning on November 10th of 1998 at his school, where he proceeded to immediately confess to the murder. He stated to arresting police officers that he had seen Maddie heading back home and assumed that she was already going home for the night. So he called her over where he was waiting on his front porch and he said, "Hey, while my parents are gone, let's play baseball in the backyard," where he accidentally hit her in the face with a baseball, and she began to cry and she began to bleed. Panicking that he was going to get into trouble, he dragged her into his house and proceeded to hit her over the head with his baseball bat twice. This is where it gets kind of, I want to say creepy, because he's 14 years old. Like, how can anybody have thoughts like this or whatever? So he ends up hitting her in the head with a baseball bat twice, right? He drags her upstairs to his bedroom and puts her underneath the bed. Like, he's shoving her underneath the bed, and he hears his dad getting home from work. So he proceeds to go downstairs, greet his dad like nothing happened. He was chilling with his family downstairs for some time. His dad went upstairs to get like ready for bed. I guess he was taking a shower, and like mom had gotten home. She was going to cook dinner. He goes into his room and he lets them know, like, I'm going to be playing whatever. He gets rid of his parents. He goes upstairs to his room. He hears that Maddie's still alive. She's moaning and groaning and making these noises, you know what I mean? Like, she's still alive after being struck in the head twice. She's 8 years old with a baseball bat from a 14-year-old boy who, I'm sorry, but like, little boys are so strong for their own good. Like, it's like good for them, but also like that is so terrifying. You know what I mean? So then he drags her out from underneath the bed. This is his story, by the way. And this is him telling the police officers what happened. Proceeds to stab her over 11 times in the torso and neck with his knife pen, which I'm assuming is an X-Acto knife. That's why I said X-Acto knife. I don't know what a pen knife or a knife pen are, which is on the public records. They'll usually say pen knife or a knife pen. He proceeded to stab her 11 times in the torso and neck, and then placed her back underneath the bed. That's where it kind of stops making sense, because there are autopsy reports that say there is no evidence that she was ever struck in the head with anything near her face with like a baseball. Nothing like that. There would have been evidence. Any contusions on her skin would have been left there, you know, because she had died so quickly after that incident happened. The contusions to her head from the baseball bat were present during the autopsy, as well as obvious, you know, knife wounds or stab wounds to her body, to her neck and torso from that knife pen, which was retrieved from the crime scene, his bedroom. One of the things that he doesn't mention in there was the fact that her shorts and her underwear were removed and her shirt was over her chest, which led police officers to believe that this was a sexually motivated assault, where it was either believed that he may have lured Maddie into his house with the intention of assaulting her, and then she began to cry, and that's when he proceeded to attack her, noting that the shirt had no stab wounds where the wounds would have been, as well as no blood where it would have been if she was wearing her clothes while she was being attacked. It's also I also have to mention, I know this, I'm sorry, like, I wanted to talk about this because I find stuff like this, like, super, I want to say interesting, because I watch a lot of true crime, a lot of documentaries, but it's just, it's giving me the heebie-jeebies right now, like, it really is. Blood was found on his ceiling fan, which had been dried for a week, which I don't know how his parents didn't notice it. Maybe it was just like specks, you know how like they do like little tiny swabs when they do the crime scene investigations. But like, then why was there so much blood? It kind of gives you an idea of how aggressive this crime truly was, you know, knowing that the blood reached such a high level. You know, if he was like stabbing her, or if he was just trying to like end her misery or whatever, he could have like just done the little stab. But it might have been that he was like actually like enjoying what he was doing to her. I know that a lot of the times people are like, oh, well, you know, when people end up doing gruesome crimes like this, they have a bad childhood or anything, but there are family members as well as Josh himself who can attest that his parents have always been very good to him. He has 2 older brothers from his dad's first marriage that had moved out, you know, while he was very young. So in this case, he was technically an only child who was very loved, and he had a very good neighborhood. A lot of kids, you know, to play with. He was a smart kid in school, and, you know, not the typical signs of what I would say is a sociopath, a serial killer. Oh, not serial killer, just a murderer. You know, he's just a very typical 14-year-old boy. I'm sorry about that. My phone just cut off there for a second. I don't know what happened. I do think that it's very important to note that he stabbed her, hit her over the head 2 times, put her under the bed, took her out, stabbed her 11 times, and then put her back under the bed and proceeded to go out into the neighborhood to help the search for Maddie Clifton. Are you kidding me? So in Jacksonville, Florida, Josh Phillips was actually tried as an adult at the age of 14 and merely missed the death penalty. He ended up getting life in prison at nearly 14 years old. I know that sounds incredibly insane, but considering the fact of how aggressive this case was and how violent he committed this crime, I want to say it's fitting, but at the same time, I don't know too much about law and order and how all of that stuff works to say that like, oh yeah, he totally deserved it. I understand that he was just a child, but at the same time, not a lot of 14-year-olds are causing murder in such an aggressive degree. You know what I mean? Like, should he have been tried as an adult? Should he have been tried as a child? I am not, you know, one to say, but I'm glad he got what it is that he got. At the same time, apparently in prison, he has been a model inmate. He's even gotten his degree in law, and he's helping out other inmates get lesser sentences. So I don't know. He did even write an apology letter, or he was asked to write an apology letter to the family, you know, because of what happened. And he said he would feel more comfortable saying it to them, you know, in person. And of course the family said, yeah, there's no way I'm ever gonna sit in a room with that guy, which, you know, obviously you don't want to sit in the room with the man who just murdered your sister, your daughter, you know. But that's it. That's all I know for the case of the girl under the bed, Maddie Clifton. If you guys want to watch more videos a little bit like this, comment down below. Let me know. DM me what kind of ideas you have for some videos. I am down to do whatever. I have just been seeing this story like all over YouTube, all over my YouTube. And I have been watching it for like 3 days straight. Different people talking about it and different details. This is just more of the stuff that was more consistent, and so I was like, oh yeah, I'll talk about that stuff instead of the stuff that was like hearsay. But yeah, let me know if you guys like this, and if you don't, well then just don't watch it. This is the makeup for today. Oh, let me show you the outfit. Ignore my bang energy and several drinks and all of the papers that I have on here. I was taking several notes, but this is the outfit. We got a little crop moment with a little mini skirt and some heels, and then this is the makeup. And of course I'm wearing my blue contacts, which look really nice in the camera today. But that's it. Thanks for watching my video, guys. Bye!